Welcome to Humans of Magic. This episode, I am revisiting an old friend. V is the protagonist of This Ukrainian Life, which I created and recorded in 2022, just as Russia invaded Ukraine. In that episode, I talked about the impact that the invasion has had on the Ukrainian Magic community. This time, I'm catching up with V. He's still in Ukraine, and it's been 2 years since the war started. He's going to share how Magic the Gathering has helped his local Ukrainian community of players. It is definitely a heavy topic. I would like to warn you in advance that there is some talk of violence and warfare and what's going on in Ukraine today. V does give me a very honest telling of what is happening to him and his loved ones around him. It also speaks to the power of Magic the Gathering as a game to unite people in local communities together. So without further ado, this is my conversation with V, a Ukrainian Magic player for Humans of Magic. All right, V, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing as good as a person in a war zone during an active war would do. Overall, life's pretty difficult, I would say, but I'm getting through it. I have people who care about me and people who I care about who've helped me get through it. So overall, it's not good. I would want to say it's good, and I want to try to focus on the good things because it's very easy to focus on the bad ones. So yeah.
So just to rewind it a bit for our listeners, you and I first connected 2 years ago, 2022. Obviously, a different time back then for everybody. And for those who may now have listened to that episode, can you give a bit of a self introduction, just who you are, besides the fact that you're a Magic player and what you do, and maybe even a little bit of then versus now kind of thing?
Yeah, so for whoever hears me for the first time, name's Vitalii. I'm from Ukraine and I'm now almost 30 years old. I've been working in IT for more than 10 years. Avid Magic player for about, 4.5 to 5 years now. Play all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I've moved to Lviv a month or so before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine started. Um, I've been visiting here and I've been having friends and different sorts of endeavors here for about 5 years before that. So it's not like it wasn't connected to the full-scale invasion for me. But then, yeah, after it started, I've hosted my parents and my granny for a year or so. Then I got them a new apartment when we like sort of thought that this is now the new norm and we have to plan our lives off of that assumption. So I got them an apartment. They've lost. I'm originally from the eastern region of Ukraine. That unfortunately got my hometown got occupied by Russians in March 2022. So my parents essentially didn't have a home at all. So I got my bucks. I bought them an apartment. We renovated it. My dad mostly, now that he was out of work as well, because his private entrepreneurship stuff was also in my hometown, because they permanently live there. He renovated the place, and they are moving in 2 weeks, I think, or about that time. What else? Uh, I've worked full time in IT. I've stopped working full time in IT for half a year or so to focus on my volunteering things. Almost became like a full time or another full time volunteering activity for the armed forces. I've been focusing mostly on networking, getting people Starlinks, and also tactical medicine a lot. Yeah, and then when I was almost like out of money to give to our guys on the front line, I went to my full time in IT again. I've been a product owner for about 7 years now, or 7.5, and I'm still working full time. Plus, another maybe a little funny thing is that my partner and myself are trying to open up a magic-related business amidst war as well. We're not really a business. I'm not planning to profit off of it, but like we felt that a lot of magic players and a lot of just our friends and people who we know needed a third place sort of outside of their offices and homes. So we're opening up a social space with like books and magic and coffee and all that kind of stuff in the city center, which also is mostly like electricity wise is on the critical infrastructure line, so it won't get cut offs most likely, because again for the past few months, and we're going to talk about it later, I'm pretty sure, James, for the past few months Russians have been sabotaging our electricity plants again. So the winter of 2022/2023 was pretty difficult, but we got through it, and this one's going to be more difficult because we now have even less electricity generation as a country overall. So yeah, it's going to get worse, and this is like another sort of a preparation effort for that. So we are now almost open. We're going to open in a few weeks as well, and we're already hosting magic stuff there. I'm having Commander Legends Baldur's Gate draft as we speak. And yeah, and I'm gonna go there after we have our little talk to do more stuff. Just yesterday we were like, very getting our hands dirty with my dad, fixing a little detail here and there. So yeah, that too. And I think the last huge piece of difference between then and now is that the first Humans of Magic episode we did with James was like not just about me, but about other people from other cities I knew very well. And one of those persons was Sasha from Kiev. And we've been living together for a year and a month now. Yeah, and like
That's
she's an awesome human being. She supports me a lot, and that's the place we're opening with her as well. So yeah, there's sort of that.
that's a huge update. Well, it's a huge update for anybody if we haven't talked if you haven't talked to somebody in 2 years. But I think for you especially, there's just been so much going on, like in the foreground and the background. And just describe to me, are people what's the magic scene like? I guess we'll start with something lighter. Just I'm guessing there's still people that are turning up to your new LGS or new space, and people are still interested in Magic. Because the last time we talked, we were talking about how Hasbro or Wizards kind of stopped the distribution of product into this region, or like there's no localized product. And I'm just curious, like, how do you feel like the game has like stayed about the same? Has it shrunk? Has it grown compared to maybe a few years back?
That's a really good question, and yeah, it's a light one, but a really good question. I'll take it in like two parts. First, let's talk about Wizards, and then let's talk about the community, because I feel like those are not necessarily connected that much anymore. Um, Regarding Wizards, firstly, and thanks to you to a great extent, I think we did it, because like we're not getting Russian products anymore. We are not working with Russian distributors. We have German businesses supplying magic cards and like accessories and other stuff to us, and the chain is working actually pretty good. We're getting our promos up to date. We're getting a vast majority of like sealed products very very timely. I don't remember when myself or like other local game stores throughout Ukraine had like a delayed pre-release or something like that. So that works pretty nicely, and I feel like I'm not sure if it was a coincidence or not, but the episode we did also like a lot of Reddit posts and just a lot of people talking about the fact that Ukraine exists. Plus, again, pressure from our Ukrainian distributors from the chain, maybe got it through, and I feel hurt for the past like 2 years, a little less than that. I think a year and 8 months now. I feel heard and I feel supported by the company a bit better. And yeah, just a week ago, we got my local game store called Otawara got a WPM status. So we are now officially recognized by Wizards as well. Yeah, that. Regarding Wizards, I'm not going to talk about the state of the game because we all have our preferences and we may talk
We all
about
have
it
our
later a little
opinions.
bit.
Yes.
Yeah. That's for sure. And again, now that I have a local game store, I'm not like that entitled to give a negative opinion because I want people to play the game. I want it to get bigger because I like the noise of people laughing in my place, and they do laugh a lot. So yeah, that regarding the community, I think the biggest positive impact for the past 2 years has been from coming from Kiev because they have the biggest community and they did a really good job supporting other stores, supporting people with like smaller LGSs from other cities, and also like getting people to go out of Kiev to tournaments to different cities and like smaller ones as well. Uh, I feel like another huge shout out should go to my good friend who has an LGS in Ivano-Frankivsk. It's like a western Ukraine, smaller city, less than 500,000, I think, population. And yeah, it's just a super, super beautiful, cozy store led by a man who opened up an LGS in Kharkiv, I think a month or so before the full scale started. And then it all like got in shambles. They had to start again, and he had the courage to do another one. So yeah, he has a beautiful, cozy community, and I'm trying to bring like 10 people or so from Lviv every big tournament. We're getting in our cars or we're getting on the train and we're going there. Yeah, and like I think a month ago or so, we've had our first, actually held in Ivano-Frankivsk. We had our first RCQ tournament. Pioneer, I think it was. Not like a shit ton of people, about 30, I think, but it's still a pretty good tournament for a city that's less than 500,000 population. There's that. Another trend I see is that more young audience is getting into Magic, because I think overall, what you need to play Magic, you need to be smart, you need to know English to read cards, and that basically narrows down the target audience to like people from IT or someone connected to IT in by a large margin, which means young, like active students or people who are just out of university, who like hanging out and playing stuff. So I've seen a downward trend in like involvement of older people, say 35 plus, and I've seen a huge uptick in like younger audience, which I feel like is a good thing because again, they need something to play, and I feel like Magic is a really good outlet for helping people go through stuff, because it is, at the end of the day, it is a lighthearted, fun game that you can spend time with and you can feel rewarded to a certain extent. Plus, you can make friends. Numbers wise, I think we got a little bigger. Like, we either stayed the same as a community overall, or we got a little bigger. Also, a lot of our guys are serving in the military. Either they went 2023, or they were serving even when we first talked. And some of them come here to visit on their vacation, or like if they have a few days, or if they get stationed nearby for a couple months or so. We're, of course, welcome them, and I personally talk almost like every day to a lot of people who are serving now, volunteering support, and yeah, the place is always like open for them as well. Plus, we try to make it inclusive as well, because my stupid dream is to hold like veteran rehab events at my place, because I feel like, again, Wizards have done a nice job sending Magic cards to, I think, Iraq it was, for US soldiers stationed there. And I feel like board games and Magic and just games in general can be a pretty good outlet of reintegrating people who have been in the active war zone on the front line for months and years. I think it can be a good thing. So yeah, there's that. I feel happy with the state of community in Ukraine. I feel like the full-scale invasion, again, focusing on the positives, has brought us closer together, and sort of all the little politics within the country, between like different relationships between different LGSs and all that, is sort of second grade now. And like what really matters is to help each other, and I think a lot of people and a lot of clubs have been doing good at that. Plus, yeah, we have a huge active core of the community now. I think Kiev's just had what was it, Modern Horizons 3 pre-release for about like 100 plus, I think, total. Scattered around a few events, plus like they have two pretty big LGSs now. But like again, it was over 100 people who are willing to pay a lot for a premium pre-release, and like they're happy to play it. So I think the community hasn't gotten worse. It's gotten better, or at least it's stayed where it is. Obviously, we do have a lot of challenges these days, because we have electricity cutoffs, we have bombs dropping on our heads, and we also have like people either in the process of getting recruited, or they were recruited already to be closer to the front line, to serve and to sort of lose control over your own personal independence in favor of your country. So yeah, there's that. But we're trying to replenish the numbers with younger people, get new audiences, pivot into like other games a little bit as well. So yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So there's that.
You don't have to keep it short. That was great. That was just like, it gave me a really good bird's eye view of what it's like. And as you're giving me the update, I'm trying to visualize people having fun, and still, maybe some happy memories coming out of it,
Man, I was so
despite what's
happy.
going on.
We held Outlaws of Thunder Junction in a half-made sort of place. Like again, I started doing this with my partner in November 23. We sort of thought that like, let's go and make an LGS of sorts, just for us to have another place, and just for us to welcome people, so people can have an other place rather than their home and their office. And it was a beautiful building in the city center, like right next to the regional state administration building, which is like a pompous building, huge one, really nice facade and all that. But the place itself was just a former, office building of some sort of a political party or something. and it looked like shit, man. It was really bad. So we spent a lot on it, and it's not a good business decision or anything, but we did a complete renovation, and it took us almost half a year. Again, now that during full scale war, it's really difficult to find people who are willing to do that work, because you need a lot of people and you need a lot of equipment. You need to bring it to the city center, and it's like it's always a dangerous place to be in, because you're near the regional state administration. It can get hit
Yeah.
if you wait long enough. So yeah, there was that. We spent like a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of resources to do a complete renovation, and we didn't make it in time until Outlaws of Thunder Junction had to come out. But I was super anxious to like keep my promises that we will have that pre-release in there. So we did it like a completely charitable event. So all the money that people spent on like coffee and sweets and all that, we just tested a bunch of stuff and we gave it all away to the armed forces. But we had about 60 people, I think, throughout 2 days. Like amidst dirt and a little bit of the dusty, unfinished place, and people were super fucking happy. Like I genuinely thought that it won't happen, but it happened. And like people came in cowboy cosplays, in like cowboy hats with revolvers and all that, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna have fun," and people had fun.
Yeah. So it sounds like that moment was very meaningful for you
Yeah,
and for your partner. Yeah.
for sure, man, for sure. Because like, um, I still cannot believe that we are close to being done. Like, there are obviously a shit ton of work, and we're trying to balance our full times that sort of finance this little endeavor while having a second, like, full time, almost a full time job here. Because again, we need to hire people and we need to make people depend on us because we pay them. And there's like a lot of paper stuff and bureaucracy, obviously, not to mention that it's just very, very, very difficult to plan your tomorrow amidst war. Because, like, literally, if you wanted me to say one thing to someone out of Ukraine, is that it would be the thing that nothing really changed for the past 2 years in terms of the state of your everyday life. Because like the fact that you hear about the war in Ukraine less doesn't mean that it has become a lesser thing in here. Because like that's literally, we just got used to it a little bit. We got used to planning around it to a certain extent. And that's, I think, the miracle of any human being, right? That we can get used to any sort of stuff if you wait long enough. So, unfortunately, we got used to this as well a little bit. And yeah, uh, that that sort of happened, and I didn't think that we're gonna do it. Plus, again, volunteering stuff is super important for me. I want to do it as long as I am able to, and as long as there is a need to, and there is always a need to. So we keep like trying to do charitable events, at least like one big event every few weeks or so, to like keep the little bit of the money coming. Now we're gonna have another little initiative that I maybe will talk about. Uh, that so it's very, very hard, but it is rewarding. I didn't think it will be rewarding, but it is. And
Mm.
I'm just a sucker for like seeing people for commander bots just all laughing, throwing cards. It's a good time for them. Plus, yeah, and I've had people approach me people who I know very well from the community and people who I know less, or like newer people. And the overall statement, collective statement from them is that a lot of people needed this sort of place, and they are happy it now exists, and I think they're doing a really good job, like trying to support us in that. So like a lot of people give advice, a lot of people just buy products because that's the little margin that we have that sort of makes us a little like not profitable again, but we recover a little bit of money. And yeah, just go to the tournaments, get events done, try help gather people, get new people, and yeah, give us a little bit of breathing room when it comes to the fact that we've just become a WPN. We didn't have like promo packs before that. We had our ways of doing the pre-release events, sort of, because if you're not a WPN, you cannot like officially hold a pre-release. It can be like a sealed tournament, but not necessarily a pre-release. That like and all the other stuff, like people in here and people I have and people I know are just awesome, and I wanted to give back something to them, and I wanted to give back to the city that has hosted me and my parents and my friends for years, and it has been a very hospitable place to live in. So yeah, we are trying our best.
That's good to hear. Um, I don't know if this is generalizing, but I have to imagine that with all this heavy stuff in the background, it in some ways it maybe the silver lining is that as you kind of alluded to, maybe the silver lining is it builds a bit more connection with certain communities because there's, as you said, maybe some of the past squabbles or beefs or things between different stores or regions for Magic, it doesn't really matter as much. But I think also, do you feel like your life has more meaning now? Like, I'm just thinking, like before all this started, you're an IT guy, and I know you played music, you were in a band, and you were in a different place, and your parents were in a different place, and then all this stuff happened. And now, to me, it feels like you're kind of combining a lot of things because the LGS is sort of helping to support the war cause or the defense, and then there's like you're still doing volunteering stuff, and so. I, maybe this is a bad question, but do you feel like it has enriched your life in some way or has given your life a bit more meaning in some way? Because it's literally existential now, right? Like the this threat and whether or not
Yeah,
you're able to continue or your people are allowed to continue as it was.
it is a difficult question, but I think it is a good one. So I'll try and answer it as best as I can. Where do I start? I'll try and make it as personal as I can, because otherwise I feel like I'm speaking for my nation or like other people, and that's
Okay,
something I
you're not
don't
a
deserve
politician.
to.
You're just a guy,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
that's fine.
but yeah,
Yeah,
let's make it
yeah.
super personal. Um, and I'll try to not overshare, but I've been dealing with pretty severe depression for like 10 years now, almost 10, and this sort of thing. I was always a highly functional, but an extremely depressed person that was trying to do a lot of stuff and be successful in a lot of things to sort of find something that would bring me joy. And when the full scale invasion started, I think something just changed, and I didn't have the luxury to make it personal anymore, because it never, like, it wasn't personal anymore. It was an existential threat to like my nation and the people I care about. So I've spent the next 2 years, I think, in a pretty like good mental state, in terms of like I mobilized all of my internal resources to stay functional and to perform as good as I can in a multitude of ways, because that was the only way to contribute to the nation's survival, essentially. And that is something I have seen my friends do, and I have seen like Ukrainian heroes and like Ukrainian people do, like widely, right? A lot of people did that, and I felt I needed to do that as well, and I still want to, but then again, I've seen people crumble. Like a year passed, some people stopped. Like they just couldn't do it anymore. Not because they're bad people or anything. They just couldn't do it anymore because like they're out of juice, right? Um, then like another year passes. Another couple of people, their battery gets super low. Uh, and some of them recover, get back to it, get back to full active mode, and some of them don't. And again, some of them just went to serve, which is a much better way of contributing to this whole thing, that stuff that I do. But yeah, there's that. And I was almost waiting when this hits me, because it's been like 2 years and a couple months. Uh, and when 2 years and a couple days passed, I think I've started feeling pretty badly, and like my mental state regressed to a state that I've always been at as long as I can remember, which is like this very sad person that is functioning. Like I have my career, I have my friends, I have my relationships and all that. But yeah, it has become worse. So I am in therapy now again, and I'm trying to get back to like my fully active mode, and that's I think doing the LGS thing, and just having meaningful interpersonal relationships with a lot of people is a great help at that. Yeah, so for sure, the full scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and the fact that we are getting like idiotic, absolutely meaningless like attacks on civilian infrastructure, sort of puts everybody I know, and myself included, in this like absolutely different state of mind. I think it's almost like primal uh, instinct or something like that, to try and do as much as you can until you basically cannot do it anymore. So it didn't get better for me personally. It's not like my life has become more meaningful or something. I've just lost the luxury of having time to look for the meaning of life or something like that. And essentially, um, the meaning of my life now was handed to me by the circumstances, and this is what I have to deal with now. Which I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a thing. And I feel like the positive out of it is that, yeah, you're right. All of the quarrels and all of the beef between people or businesses or communities or whatever has become a second thing now. And the first thing is like getting together and getting shit done. Um, and yeah, that's that, with a little asterisk, that after 2 years of full scale war, I think some people got used to it so much that they are trying to get back to the old ways and like get the beefs and quarrels and like personal interest a little bit back into the picture. So yeah, and that's unfortunate and that's sad, but it has to happen sometimes as well, because like it's not easy, and it's not like anyone can live in this mobilized state of mind for so long. Yeah.
Well, the first thing I want to say is thank you so much for just having the courage to share that, because it's not easy to just share that with me, but also in a recording. So I want to say thank you for that. That's very honest and very real. And it also just affirms my idea that this is not a movie. Like, this is not some sort of thing with a like easily summarizable, like this is like all good or all bad. Like, people deal with it in different ways. And so that's what I want to say first, is that thank you for sharing that. That's very real. And I really do hope that, you know, you're getting the help or the treatment, or I don't know what's the right term for it. I apologize if that sounds
No, no,
heavy,
you got
but
it right. You got it absolutely
like
right.
if
Yeah,
I hope you're getting what you need. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
You know, don't 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 prioritize not putting yourself first. That's really important, because at the end of the day, like, the only people that can take care of yourself is yourself, right? So I think
Yeah,
that's
and again, I wanna interrupt you a little bit and say that, like, it is for a modern day Ukrainian, it is a luxury to be able to prioritize myself, and I feel like I don't like I shouldn't have that luxury, because a lot of my people don't have that luxury because they are fighting the actual war now, and like it's hundreds of thousands of people. Uh, yeah, that. So you're right in that anyone who has a mental illness, or who has issues, or feels not in a way they would like to feel, have to prioritize themselves. And I just wanted to say that yeah, it is a huge luxury for Ukrainians these days to be able to do that.
and I have to say, even though I've not been clinically depressed, I have also struggled with this idea of guilt. Like, you know, why should I prioritize myself,
Yeah,
take care of myself, give myself a day off or whatever it is? Because look at these other people, they're suffering so much, or this person is like literally waking up and having to fire a weapon. Like, um, you know, I think that's the challenge, is like, when you live in this world and you have empathy, it also creates a kind of self guilt, because like you can always tell yourself, like, there's someone who's doing worse, and that's objectively true, but at the same time you still have to take care of yourself. You know what I mean? This is something that I've struggled with a lot. I don't know. It's just, maybe it's a personal thing, but I feel that sometimes. Yeah.
it totally is. It totally is a personal thing, and I get you. And I think uh, every sane Ukrainian, to a certain extent, feels this way, because again, we do have a lot of news and rule of five handshakes, right? Uh, Pretty much every Ukrainian has an acquaintance that, like, everyone has a very close one who is currently fighting at the front line.
Mm, mm,
And I'm pretty sure that, like, vast majority of Ukrainians, almost everyone, knows someone who is currently held captive at Russia. And with the conditions that our people, like, are held there, they are tortured and beaten, and like it's just inhumane, completely inhumane, uh, to be held captive there. Uh, I think the survivor's guilt sort of is with every Ukrainian because of that, and we try to do our best to highlight the fact that that captivity exists and those people exist, and those are, mind you, I personally think every single person is 100 times of a human being as I am, like much better human being, because they have actually fought for their country, right? Uh, Almost all of them, like I think 100% of them were volunteers, and they now have to suffer, and absolutely idiotic and like meaningless torture, just because the world is unfair or whatever. And I think the empathy of Ukrainians is getting transformed into guilt.
mm. The other thing I just want to quickly say, based on what you shared, is that I've heard, you know, I read in the news about how this is a war of attrition, but we shouldn't forget this is a war of mental attrition as well. It's not
Yeah,
just like, okay, you lose a force here, you take this territory, the territory comes back. It's like a tug of war. But you're also speaking to, like, in a way, I think Russia and Putin, like, that's what they want to do is they want to mentally exhaust the Ukrainians because, like, for him, this is like an eternal conflict. This is something that, um, I guess my judgment of Putin is pretty obvious by the way I'm saying it, but like, I think we all kind of agree that, like, this is part of him trying to create his legacy, and there's no turning back. So for him, it doesn't matter how brutal the conflict is, or how long it is, or how many people have to suffer on both sides. It's just there's no turning back. Whereas I think for the Ukrainians, like, you guys are really like exhausted by all of this, and there's only so much a human being um, can continue resisting, right? Anything. I'm not even talking about warfare, but just even like a numb pain or something like that. And I feel like the invaders know, and which is unfortunate because it just speaks to how much this is all about human nature, right? Because you said even now people are trying to bring back some old conflicts or beefs or things like that, but in a way that's also kind of a coping mechanism for humans to like try to feel more normal again. And it
Yeah.
speaks to how resilient human beings are, but it's also kind of like the dark side of resilience, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want to make it like about politics because I'm shit at that. But it feels like for Russia, the only state like their government can exist in is like permanent war with someone. And it was Georgia. Before that, there was Chechnya, other conflicts, right? They are
Mm-hmm.
constantly uh, in a state of a conflict of different scale, but a conflict with someone,
Mm-hmm.
because that takes the attention of an average Russian away from the internal problems that they surely have, and
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of them, right? It's not like an average Russian lives a good life, or
Right.
a healthy life or a comfortable life, right? Because anything outside of Moscow, as it is this huge megalopolis, is just complete shambles. Is just a degraded state. So what takes the attention away from those problems and obvious questions of like how did we get there and what can be done to stop it or reverse it, uh, gets transformed into like hate to whoever is on the other side of this conflict. Um, yeah, and that's the instrument that has been very efficient because like Putin and his government is still at power for what 20 years now.
It's a legitimizing force, unfortunately. War, like conflict, it
Yeah,
legitimizes the government and keeps
yeah.
them in power, basically.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's not a time for internal questions or whatever. And it for Ukrainians, it to a certain extent is almost the same. Like we had to delay some of the questions to our like politicians at power, because currently it is not the time, right? And it's not like someone is perfect, and Ukrainian government is by no means perfect. But yeah, we give them some slack because they are doing their best and as best as they can, and we've done a lot of good things, right? Uh, because we are still here. And for Ukrainians, you're right. For Russia, it's a conflict that unfortunately doesn't have a deadline on it, because it feels like sometimes that like at a certain point their economy will crash, but I feel like as it goes now, they will crash later than we will, provided that Western support is on the level as it is right now. Because, like for example, with the United States, we didn't get ammunition for half a year, and that was the half a year like due to internal U.S. politics stuff again, because like
Mm-hmm.
elections and the power struggle and all that. Like, and we were on the receiving end of the suffering for that because we've had our losses of territory, of manpower because a different actor who is outside of Ukraine and who doesn't have anything to do with Ukraine almost, right? Because US just said, look, we have to focus on our own stuff and use this as a leverage to do something for our internal affairs, right? That so for Ukrainians, it's just very, very dangerous and unstable environment to sort of have a good thought or try to analyze this power balance or how the war will go forward and all that. And it's like easy to say, and the only easy thing to say about this is that Russia, unfortunately, has much better allies at this who are acting like allies. North Korea, Iran, China to a certain extent, uh, they are much better allies than the ones we have chosen as Ukrainians. Because even though EU and US do something, and we have some beautiful, beautiful partnerships with beautiful countries like Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. We have some smaller countries from Europe doing like a lot of stuff. Sweden and Finland are also like, so the countries that know what it's like uh, to coexist in the world near to Russia. They do help us a shit ton, and it's very nice. But the overall, like the biggest allies or people who act like they're our biggest allies, like US and some countries like France and Germany, for example, they don't do enough. And provided that this will continue, yeah, you're right that for Russia it is becoming a more comfortable conflict, which it was not in 2022 because they went in aggressively and they were like fought back. Like we fought back very, very like vigorously, right? So yeah, they regrouped and we regrouped as well, but they have better support. So now it is becoming, yeah, an existential threat, I would say. And it's not like we can stop it because, again, if we do some sort of a peace treaty now, it's just a couple of years before the next one. Because, again, Russia did this in 2014 and we had to eat it because West didn't support us then. So they went again. And if we give them another peace treaty or sort of ceasefire or something, it will be just a pause for them to gather more stuff and go again until they get to whatever Polish border or
slippery slope, right? Because it's almost
yes,
like a
yes,
petulant child that's screaming for a toy, and then you give them the toy, and then guess what? Well, they're going to
yeah,
ask for another toy,
it
right? So where
creates
does it
it
stop?
creates the precedent, yes, and again, it also I think to a certain extent the actions of the West uh, connected to Ukrainian war to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Uh, are a huge reason and a cause for other conflicts, for a potential conflict between China and Taiwan, for stuff that's been happening in Israel and Palestine, right? And just a lot of governments are acting these days like they can destabilize the situation even more and not get anything bad happen to them out of it. So I think that largely happened or is happening because of the inaction of some potentially very big actors in the Ukrainian situation. Yes.
Hmm. I think at the end of the day, I mean, if you're not condoning, you're condemning. If you're not condemning, you're condoling. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the reality. And the fact is, as you said, like, and not just as you said, I agree with this. The giants of the world, the U.S. and China and these countries, they uh, everything revolves around them for better or worse. I'm from Taiwan, so I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So that's
Yeah.
That's just that's just the world we live in, right? And it's kind of like life in a microcosm. Like you can play it safe, but I don't know if that really gets you anything. If you're trying to somehow make everybody happy, I don't think that ever happens in the history of the
Yeah,
world.
right.
So
It's never going to happen. Yeah, and to
yeah.
get it back to like personal stuff, sometimes I feel like um, I shouldn't ever think of the life I would have had if this did not happen, because I feel like myself and a lot of people I know would have done so much good for Ukraine and for people outside Ukraine. Like everyone I know these days is talking about beautiful things. It's talking about opening up businesses, uh, writing songs, making art, writing books, uh, going to villages to teach in smaller schools who have teacher shortage basically, doing all sorts of different volunteering projects for ecological situation, for the environment, or for homeless animals, or all sorts of really good things, positive things. And I feel like uh, war and Russia has deprived us of the opportunity to pursue all of those endeavors. Not to mention that some of the people I know or I have known will not live to that day when they like hopefully someday some of us can think about or consider doing some other stuff again when like Russia stops or like Russia is stopped. Uh, but yeah, some of us will not live to that day.
What is something that you wish the rest of the world would know about, just on top of what you've shared so far? Like, because I'm so, not just myself, but we're all in these kind of news cycles, like something's covered right now because it's the topical thing. As you just said, things have not really gotten better over the last 2 years. Just because the media is not covering it doesn't mean that it's still not a reality. But I mean, I'm just wondering, like, are there things that you wish folks around the world would just have some like more appreciation or awareness of? I mean, you've shared a lot, but I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, just if anything that comes to mind.
And it's difficult to say something short because you know to actually feel what we feel, and a lot of people empathize with the Ukrainians, right? And I thank them for it, but it's really difficult to actually know the boots we have to wear.
I mean, at the end of the day, we do not know how you feel. So I just want to
Yeah,
say that for
yeah,
the record.
yeah,
Like, until you're in it, you're not really in it. Yeah.
yeah. And I hope no one ever has to, right? Uh, but the thing is, um, nothing I say will influence anything because it's at the end of the day, it is the willpower and the bravery of Ukrainian people who have to die for other Ukrainian people to live their life someday. Um, and that's not gonna be changed by anything I say. And the other thing that is not going to be changed by anything I say is that a lot of stuff is influenced, and the outcome of this war, I believe, still to this day, will be influenced by the decisions of the governments of the Western world. And currently, I think this is what I'm going to say. Um, Whoever is interested in politics to this extent to hear what I'm gonna say is gonna maybe like it. I mean, so West has this instrument they've been using for a lot of months now, and this instrument is delay stuff until it doesn't matter anymore or doesn't matter that much, and then give it to Ukraine or allow Ukraine to do something when the impact has already been done, the negative impact by the absence of help or the absence of an agreement on something or a decision on something, uh, doesn't matter that much, and the negative impact has been already done. Uh, and then when someone asks a question of like, why didn't you act? West says, we did act. We gave you NASAMS. We gave you ATA CMS, right? Uh, but no one will talk about the fact that they were a year late. And this is
But it's a matter
gonna,
of timing. That's what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
And the
And
timing
this
is
is
just
gonna
wrong.
happen with, I think, with the F-16s, with the planes as well, because we needed them earlier. And there's a lot of like really stupid, idiotic reasons West comes up with to not give us that. Like, our pilots are not good enough. This is like too complicated of a technology, or something like that. Or again, some internal power struggles they come into light here. But the experience shows is that whoever gets their hands from Ukrainians, whoever gets their hands on any technology, we get so good at it so fast with the help of, again, Western instructors and like people who give manuals and like teach us how to work at it. But we are very good at adapting and getting to know something and discovering something. So that is not the reason. And this just recently, this happened with the Kharkiv invasion again, just a couple months ago, not even a couple months ago. And for context, Kharkiv region has a border, a very wide border part with Russia. And Kharkiv, a city I lived in for half my life, and a city of almost 1.5 million population when I was leaving it. Uh, a beautiful urban modern city with like a very, very huge focus on students and a lot of universities in there and a lot of beautiful people who want to do cool stuff. Um, is, if I'm not mistaken, like about 50 kilometers, 45 kilometers from the border with Russia. So they have to suffer from daily attacks and bombings just because they are close. And US and the West has forbidden Ukrainians to strike targets on Russian territory. So we cannot defend ourselves. And we cannot, like, the modern warfare is that you have to strike logistics and you have to disable logistics to win the war and to stop the advance. And it's literally our hands were tied behind our backs due to this prohibition of using weapons on Russian territory. So we basically we had to give them the opportunity to keep striking and to keep the logistics on their territory because it is just so very close, right? And now US has delayed the decision to allow striking military targets on Russian territory for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And now when it came through, Russian invasion stopped. Russian advance stopped in that region. And now US politicians are acting like they have did a good thing. Because again, the news outlet and the headline is going to be that, look, US or whoever helped Ukraine to stop Russian advance that territory or whatever. But no one will talk about the delay. And that's what I want to say. Like, focus on timing of anything. And please pressure whoever you can pressure. Talk to your politicians, to the people you've elected, to reduce that delay, to reduce the gap between the need and something being given to Ukraine. I think that's it.
Yeah, so for whatever reasons, bureaucracy or otherwise, there are these bad delays and timings. And it's even worse when you're saying that, like, the US is basically taking credit for these like PR victories. Like they're not real victories that help the conflict or to help the Ukrainians. It's more like, look at us, we did something, but
Yeah.
without taking into account maybe the urgency. And it makes people feel good, sure. Like maybe I feel good if I didn't know the context and I read this article, but it's a headline victory. It's not a real victory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we could keep going and going and going, but I just really enjoyed having this catch up, and I really appreciate you taking the time to just kind of tell me what it's really like. And again, I think I commend your courage to share about what's been going on for you in your life. And yeah, I guess magic is one of those things that can help people, or any hobby can help people through
Yeah.
tough times. So
And we also had this with Magic. We've had it like people bleed into Magic from other similar hobbies more these days, I think. Uh, like people who are painting miniatures, people who are playing Warhammer, people who are playing D&D and stuff, right? It's not like the communities were not close to each other back in the day, but these days it's like this cross-pollination of avid Magic players who have been playing Magic for years, trying out new stuff, trying out like Warhammer or D&D or something else, or like other card games, and vice versa. People are getting more interested in Magic from other hobbies because I think what we've learned to do as Ukrainians more is listen to and care about what other do, what people we care about do. Because, like, for example, I've got really good acquaintances recently with people who are painting and who are like avid painters of minis and like do 3D printing and all that kind of stuff. Uh, just because I cared more about what my friends or friends of my friends did in their free time. And it turned out there's this whole beautiful community of other people for me to delve into and like do some cool shit together. And this also happens not just in my city, but between different cities. So yeah, it's I think it just the threat, the existential threat we've been talking about, also motivates a lot of people to do stuff because it is a possibility that you will not be able to do stuff tomorrow. So it doesn't matter to delay as much.
yeah, life is always short, but
Yeah.
there's a constant reminder of that. Um, yeah, I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, I see the instrument in the background. Is it guitar or bass guitar, or it
This
looks like a
is yeah, this
guitar?
is a guitar. Yeah.
Okay. Are you still playing music? Are you still involved with music? Because I remember you had a band at least 2 years ago or 3 years
Yeah.
ago. I don't know if you're still continuing with that, or you're just playing music for
Uh,
fun, or.
so that project had to end because, well, I feel like aside from the creative differences and all that kind of stuff that all musicians have, we just said what we wanted to say with that project. And again, that the Serpents. Thank you again for using the music in the previous Humans of Magic episode. I still have people coming to me actually and saying like, "Look, is this really?" Uh, just having heard or having seen the link because some Twitch streamers, I'm pretty sure Aspiring Spike still has the bot reminding people in the chat with a link to the previous Humans of Magic Ukrainian episode.
Hmm.
So people are still listening, people are still looking, and people are coming to me saying, like, "Ah, really? That's you?" Yeah. So with that project, I've I've said what I wanted to say, and I've pursued a couple different endeavors, which did not end in like tangible pieces of music to be recorded yet. Mostly again because people I cherish a lot and people I want to do music with don't have the luxury to do music right now because they are in actively fighting. They are in the military. They wear uniform, and the the short periods of time where I can spend time with them, like we mostly just talk about stuff, and we cannot do the normal uh, music making pipeline for me, which is like get 12 hours of work today, 12 hours of work tomorrow, 12 hours of work the day after tomorrow, right? So I have a lot of stuff I want to do with people, and I hope I will do that stuff with people, even though it's gonna be outdated because the ideas are old, the ideas are out of context now. But it's just a guest out that I have to close, Um, that and now, yeah, just because I have much less free time. Not that I've had a lot of it, but I have even less now, so I rarely have energy to play. And when I do, it's usually just getting my acoustic. This one is an electric guitar, a pretty smart one made by beautiful Japanese people back in 2005, I think. And it has a computer on board, and it can model like different guitars and different tunings. It is a pretty advanced piece of technology uh, made 20 years ago. I'm in love with it, but yeah, I don't play it as much, almost never play it these days. So for now, my music thing is just to get my partner. We sit together, we sing a song or two while I'm playing an acoustic guitar, and it's just a very very chill sort of short experience that we have in the evenings someday. Um, but I hope I'll get back to it because I do feel like I have a lot of stuff to say, and the music has been a very rewarding thing for my mental state as well. But these days, I listen to music way more than I write it or play it, which is okay because it feels like now is not the best time to do it because again, it's partially the guilt that we've been talking about, and partially just my principle that when a lot of musicians and a lot of people I would either like to make music with, or I like to listen to the music that they've made, and I've visited their live concerts and all that kind of stuff, are now at work and they might not live to see tomorrow. Uh, it just doesn't make sense internally for me to spend like a lot of time on music. So I try to limit that, do the stuff that needs to be done with a higher priority first, and then someday I'll get back to it. But this is an advice for aspiring IT people or people who have a shit ton of meetings or want to have a shit ton of meetings. You have to have something in the background to talk about when you have nothing to talk. And like, mind you, this thing has sold a lot of features to my stakeholders and a lot of stuff, and helped me foster professional relationships at work because suddenly I'm not a bunch of pixels on the monitor. I am
Mm.
a person who plays guitar and is into music and all that kind of stuff and is happy to talk about it. So it helps a lot, especially in COVID and post-COVID times. When everybody's online, it helps to build this sort of bond with people and make yourself a person in their eyes.
Hmm. And I think music's like magic. It's always going to be there when you want to go back to it in the future. I personally am actually quite inspired by what you shared today, to the point that I feel like I need to play more Magic because I've actually been in a situation where maybe my Magic is kind of like you're making music. Like it's just been kind of put in the background, and I haven't been doing so much of it, and I feel like I need to. I was talking with a friend the other week. Like I feel like I want to reconnect, but I don't know exactly how. And maybe it's just like it's almost like I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it's kind of like this I think fear is too strong a word, but this reservation about like, how do I get back into it? I feel so disconnected from it. And it's also linked to a memory that I had from when I was doing more of it. And some of it is good memories, some of it is not good memories. So it's like, without getting too complicated, I feel like I need to get back into Magic at some point. But the one thing I do tell myself is that it's always going to be there. So it's okay to go back to it later. It's just, we all have a lot of stuff going on. So it's just like, you got to just find the right, it's all about timing. You got to find the right time to do it, you know, because you can't, it's just not enough hours in the day to do everything.
Yeah, but also the fear of missing out on stuff in Magic is hard, and that's maybe a little thing that I want to like talk shit about Wizards, that they've been exploring this fear of missing out as an incentive for people to play more Magic and spend more on Magic.
Right.
Because, limited time offers very, very fast sets, small periods of time between sets. So you don't get enough. And if you miss on 2 months, or what was it? I think the shortest time was 7 weeks or so, or maybe 8 weeks between Murders and Outlaws, two standard sets. We literally did not have time to play the set, and that's I think the bad thing. But the good thing is that it's easy to start getting back into it. I think whenever you feel ready, and I don't know which aspect of Magic you like the most, but these days, like I'm rarely playing. I'm rarely playing. I mostly spend time I can spend on my own with Magic, and I don't like playing Magic online, so I have to build decks, and I build decks for people. I build decks for myself. I theory craft. Like my partner wanted this commander or whatever, and I'm trying to make a deck for it. Or like Wizards printed the new Tameo, and it's a cool legendary creature I can build a commander deck around. Or here's the new standard meta, and I have to break it somehow. Find a place for it. Um, yeah. So whatever it is you enjoyed, I think as soon as you step over that initial hesitation moment, I think you're gonna get dragged back into it in no time, and it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I would also say about the never-ending releases, or as I like to say, like preview season is never ends. Like as soon as something is previewed, another preview starts. It literally never ends. I feel like
Yeah,
I'm kind of at a
there's a catchphrase, and yeah, sorry for interrupting. There's a catchphrase in here is that Wizards have shifted the release date or the legality date of the cards to the pre-release date. So now pre-release is just a release, and maybe now the preview season is just view season all the time.
yeah, yeah, the view season instead of the preview season. Yeah. And so for me, it's kind of like, yes, there's this fear of missing out, but it's already gone so bad that I become just apathetic to it. It's just like before I would be fearful of missing out on something, but now it's just like, it's okay. I'll catch the next train because like there'll be two sets announced next month or whatever, and I'll just get on that one. So uh, it's good if you love Magic, but it also just it it never ends. And maybe like you too. Like I'm doing stuff around the game. Like for example, you're saying building decks, or I assume also working on the LGS aspect of it, the community part. So this podcast is like my community part of doing Magic, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna go to MagicCon Amsterdam, not because I want to play Magic, but just because I want to connect with people. So that community part, it's like that. It is very true what they say, right? As you get older, I think it just becomes more about the gathering or more about the community than the actual game. At least as it's felt like that way for me for the last 5 years or 10 years. So
yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, because the community aspect of it is for sure huge. And what I love seeing the most is people from my community who have come here to play Magic, uh, to start hanging out outside of my LGS or outside of whatever place I'm gathering Magic at, and they're not playing Magic. They're just doing other stuff. They're playing Tekken 8 on their PS, or watching anime together, or just talking about books or stuff, or just getting out for a beer. And it is it is probably the most beautiful thing, the community part of it. So yeah, you're right. And with the fast releases for the LGS part of the thing, I think it's actually good. Like, maybe product fatigue catches up to my people, but basically it allows us to conduct more pre-release events and bigger events connected to sets. Plus, it gives me a selling point of like having something new, having something fresh to come out. So maybe that's one of the few things that Wizards have done good for LGSs, is that we now have more must attend events. Basically, pre-release of every set is like the most profitable event for any LGS wherever, right? Because a lot of people come, and a lot of people who don't play Magic outside of, say, pre-releases or very few events or very few Commander gatherings, they come because, again, fear of missing out. If you're not playing a pre-release this weekend, you're not playing a pre-release ever. And that is what sells a lot of stuff to people, and brings bigger events. And bigger events also like create this, not an illusion, but they create this precedent of actually seeing what it's like, what a big event is. And mind you, a good 90% of my current community has never seen an actual fucking big event. Like, they are people who have started playing Magic a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they haven't had an opportunity to go to regional qualifiers, or like be the Pro Tour viewer somewhere in Europe, or like big tournaments that Legacy hosted back in the day, and now like Tournament Center will, I think. So yeah, and most of us don't have the like, can't get out of Ukraine to visit wherever, for obvious reasons. And yeah, even though we can hold our own regional qualifiers, smaller tournaments now that the winner can go to the actual RC somewhere in Europe. But yeah, no, like most people have never experienced a tournament of 100 or 200 people, and it's just a completely different thing, myself included. My friends have just talked about it, like while we were going to a different, like to a smaller tournament in a different city, like 50 people or so. There are stories about, those events, the big events, someone from our team from Ukraine got to top 8 and we were all there, and this was the deck and this were the people, and like just a bunch of different experience merge into this joyful amalgamation of 500 people all caring about one thing or whatever is huge. And I wish someday we will have an opportunity to host more here and to go outward to different countries more as well. Yeah, but now it's I think very important for us to foster the community even more, and the pre-releases and different Magic sets and universes beyond. I was super skeptical about the product, but as a matter of fact, is I have people who have come to play Magic because of Doctor Who, because they are Doctor Who fans. I have had people come play Magic because they're Fallout fans. I've had people come because they are Warhammer fans and they're Warhammer precons.
Not
right?
to mention Lord of the Rings, of course.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is the biggest one, and some of the latter fans have become super active and enthusiastic players in my community. Like, week to week tournaments, events. They get through, they build decks, and they buy cards and they buy products. So yeah, Lauder has been the biggest one. I'm curious to see what Assassin's Creed collaboration brings us, and then the Final Fantasy stuff. But yeah, that was actually a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like there's a lot of things to look forward to. So I think we'll leave it on a positive note. So V, thank you so much for just taking the time today to share your experiences. It's I'm immensely grateful to you for being so open and for doing that.
Likewise, man. Likewise. And I think it's been a pretty difficult episode for both of us and for whoever listens to it, just because we have to focus on stuff that is a very difficult topic and is basically a very negative topic to listen to stuff about, right? Uh, but yeah, I just don't want anyone to forget what we're going through, and thank you so much, man, for keeping in touch. I feel like we've maybe fell out of it for a couple months or so while we were having our like own stuff to focus on, but we've kept in touch. It's not like we've not talked to each other in 2 years, right? An occasional message here or there, and that makes me happy. And I'm happy to be a guest. I'm happy to help whenever, and yeah, just talk and message.